What do people think? What do politicians think? What do the experts think? Every Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, Real Politics with Malkhaz Gulashvili.
Your opinion, what was the reason for the war in Ukraine? What is Russian mission?
Oh my God, you're asking the wrong guy. But you want to know about the Ukraine war?
Yes.
Why did it happen? I think usually these crises like this, I'm not on a day-to-day basis following that, first of all, so I'll qualify that. But I think the main thing is that the big powers in such issues, there are different powers which come into action. United States, China, and of course Russia. If these three leaders talk, half the world's problems will.
Of course.
Yeah. So that's how these dialogues which you're referring to, if you can get the three of them together, plus maybe.
But it's not possible now.
Huh?
It's not possible now.
US and China and Russia, three.
Yes.
Now others will say we too, but no, these three are the critical. You can add more to it. So I think that needs leadership. One of the three, or all of the three, have to have a little club. That we won't make a big hoo-ha in the press, but if there's a big issue, let's settle it because we owe it to the world. Because while they are prime ministers of a particular country, they have a responsibility to all the people in the world. And we have to keep rubbing that in. Their heart is in a good place. Most of them are good.
Thank you.
And I've dealt with them a lot.
When and how will the war end? What will it mean for the Ukraine to win? What will it mean for the Russia to win?
I think no war, as a matter, helps anybody in the long run. The earlier it ends, the better it will be. However, now diplomacy comes in and leadership.
Yes.
And quality of leadership, I shouldn't say that, leadership is better. So if we get the right people in the right place, and the P5, the 5 permanent members of the Security Council, they also show finally wake up and say, we'll also help. This thing has to stop, come on, let's sit together, and we'll find something to at least get it moving. May not be perfect, but it can, if your conscience is clear, you can do it over even 6 months, 12 months, a year. Add a little thing, improve.
Yes.
There are many ways of doing it. We've done it. I was in government for 6 years, so I've seen all this happen. But you need leadership. And I think we have a leadership void in some cases. I won't name them because then I'll get in trouble.
And what is that to Georgia from the north neighbor? How can we at West help to preventing this conflict?
On which conflict are you talking?
Georgia and Russia conflict.
Oh, Georgia and Russia.
Is it possible?
I have to be honest with you.
Yes.
I have not followed it at all. I've just returned from a trip yesterday. So I haven't followed it at all.
Yesterday, Lavrov is very strong says about Georgia.
Really?
Yes.
So I'll have to look at all the statements. Only then I can talk to you. And I never avoid questions, but I really haven't followed it.
Okay.
And I have to be honest with you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
What do people think? What do politicians think? What do the experts think? Every Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, Real Politics with Malkhaz Gulashvili.
In your opinion, what was the reason for the war in Ukraine? What is Russian mission?
It's déjà vu. It was seen back in early 90s when Milosevic did the same methodology to acquire the part of Yugoslavia, which is now Serbia, parts of Yugoslavia, by saying to some people that they don't exist, that they are not real country, and so on. Does this make any resonance to you? Today we have the same optics, we have the same principle, same methodology applied by Russia in Ukraine, like Milosevic did in former Yugoslavia. So it's very clear that this is violation of international law, this is violation of human rights of citizens of Ukraine to feel the way they want to feel as individuals, to be a member of certain state, certain ethnic group or whatever. Of course, at the same time, Russia has to get some kind of, not security assurances, but for Europe, what we need for overall Europe, we need some kind of re-engineering and restructuring overall European security structures, that everyone should be feeling safe in that overall Europe, from Atlantic to at least to Ural, not going further to Vladivostok. So I think it is very clear that violation of international law is here undoubtedly on the scene, and unfortunately the war in Ukraine is not war about Ukraine, it's war for the overall Europe, and ultimately it's geopolitical war that is tempting overall multilateral institutions, multilateral structures, international law per se, and those are just some of the reasons why we have to go back to square one to provide Ukrainian future as a sovereign state, but provide security for all in Europe.
Thank you. When and how will war end? What will it mean for the Ukraine to win? What will it mean for the Russian to win?
Well, first question is, what do you mean by winning?
Yes, very difficult question.
So that's the question. What do you mean? If one are seeing winning as a big parade of their military army in another capital of another sovereign country, that's, I don't call winning. That can be only losing of all of us, and that's not possible. Obviously, the military solution is not going to be the one. This is not going to end like World War II, that we have on one side defeated forces, another side winning forces. That's not going to happen that way. Unfortunately, I think that there are no still preconditions for real dialogue, for real peaceful solution. And unfortunately, I think that it will take time before, in the end, the major global players starts agreeing that this is creates a road to hell for all of us.
But this is possible now, dialogue, real dialogue is now situation?
I wish I was wrong, but I think that substantial dialogue is not possible under this situation. It will be a lot of destruction, a lot of bleeding, a lot of lost lives before it happens. I know that I don't sound nice for anyone's ears, but I wish we end out of this deadly situation that is jeopardizing everyone's future. And sooner major players sit on the table to see how we can ultimately provide sovereignty and integral territorial integrity of Ukraine together with security for all, and how fast we proceed in building up new substantial new European security structures, that your country will feel safe, that my country will
Yes.
safe, and that fear reasons remains behind us. It will take time, but we have to work on it.
And what are the threats to Georgia from the north neighbor? How can White with West help you preventing those risks?
Well, Georgia, unfortunately, is far away from European Union and far away from NATO in geographical sense, but and too close to your big neighbor that still have will to discipline you or in a different way. In that context, I think it is very important that Georgia remains independent, sovereign, territorially integrated country in which people of Georgia is going to be shaping their own future. Of course, again, I point out to need for overall European security social contract, if I can put it that way, in which not big countries, not small countries will be afraid of each other. Because however big you are, there can always be a collection of the smaller countries that can be bigger than you. So it's not only the fear of the small countries, it's also the fear of the big countries that someone can get bigger than them. So I think it's a mutual interest of all major players in Europe, in particular in Europe, that we try to figure out how we can feel more secure. And insecurity and fear is something that is actually blocking us from the brighter future. But I'm optimist because the things are so bad that after big messy things, after big flood, the dawn is going to be on the horizon.
What about your opinion about Georgian status in EU?
I think that the European Union should speed up the process, just like they did to Ukraine, just like they did to Moldova, and that's my call for European Union. Don't wait that Ukrainian gets attacked and jeopardized like Ukraine or Moldova. Give them help and support now. So candidacy status, and I hope that in this Macron and European Union initiative of European political community, that there will be enough wisdom to reach out to the countries that are further away from the mainland of European Union, like Georgia is. And there are a lot of reasons why, economically speaking, European Union needs countries like Georgia.
Thank you.
What do people think? What do politicians think? What do the experts think? Every Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, Real Politics with Malkhaz Gulashvili.
First of all, I would like highly appreciate Georgia and Azerbaijani cooperation since the independence of two countries. There was a historical friendship and brotherhood between Georgian and Azerbaijani peoples for many centuries. And since the independence of two countries, and I can gladly say that Georgia, Azerbaijan, through our joint efforts, we have implemented grandiose projects. And sometimes people thought that it's not realistic and you cannot do that. But we have done it together with Georgia and some other our international partners. The first our project started with the Baku Tbilisi-Ceyhan. I remember at that time many people said that it's impossible, it's not going to happen. But it happened. It served for the Azerbaijani people and Georgian people and some other international partners. And the same applies to the Baku Tbilisi Kars railway system. And also TAP and TANAP project. And now currently we are playing together our contribution and our contribution to energy security of Europe. Now we are entering the new phase of Georgian and Azerbaijani cooperation with some other international partners. It's about yet another concept of energy, but this time it's a renewable energy. In the Caspian Sea, Azerbaijan's renewable potential is beyond 157 gigabytes, and in the meantime, we have an offshore potential as well. Therefore, recently in Bucharest, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Romania, and Hungary, we signed a quadrilateral agreement about building a subsea cable, electricity cable to the European market, and we saw that potential. Currently, certain MOUs with international companies have been signed, and we do believe that through our joint efforts and dedication, we will implement that, and currently we see a lot of international interest on that project. And second dimension, what we are doing after the Russia-Ukrainian war and crisis, Middle Corridor gains additional importance at the international level. Especially the cargoes come from China, Central Asia, Caspian, and South Caucasus, and so on. Therefore, together with our Georgian partners, we are working together to increase the capacity, handling capacity of Baku-Tbilisi Kars railway system. And in the meantime, Azerbaijan investing its port capabilities, and Georgian government is doing the same to increasing our capabilities so that to be ready for this kind of shipment. I'm sure that, again, based on the friendship, based on the cooperation, and based also on the good willingness of Georgia and Azerbaijan, Georgian and Azerbaijani people, we will manage to implement that project as well. And in general, our view is that Georgian and Azerbaijani cooperation is a unique, and it's also a good model how two neighboring countries can cooperate and also set an example of the regional cooperation. We do hope that some other countries in our region, especially Armenia, can also learn from such a cooperation, that when two neighboring countries, they are together, they are cooperating, they are trading, and they are understanding one another, and they can serve with prosperity for the benefit of their countries, and hopefully they can also join. And by the way, Azerbaijan also suggested, and we appreciate that Georgian government and Georgian leadership also supports that initiative of having our trilateral meeting in Tbilisi, probably, Georgia, Azerbaijan and Armenia together, and demonstrate regional ownership and regional responsibility. But here, Georgia-Azerbaijan cooperation is an example.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So you are talking about Georgia's mediation in the process of this peace talks. Do you suggest that maybe in the end this deal will be signed in Tbilisi?
Why not? Wherefore, Tbilisi is much closer to Baku, and politically, geopolitically, geographically, and whenever we are in Tbilisi, we feel ourselves comfortable. But the important thing here is that, of course, I'm sure that our Georgian brothers will be more than glad to host such an event, because Georgian friends are also trying by all means to contribute to the peace in the region and stability in the region. But of course, the ball is in the court of Armenian side. Armenia should finally decide whether they do belong to this region or they will continue the same policy of separatism, occupation and aggression. That's not unacceptable. If they also join to the format of the cooperation between Georgia and Azerbaijan, I think that Armenia can also benefit, and Armenian people can benefit from that. Therefore, we will be more than glad.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And welcome to Azerbaijan. Thank you.
Я хочу еще добавить несколько вопросов. Значит, нам интересно задать следующий вопрос. Как вы думаете, вот украинская и российская война, каким образом можно закончиться? Ваше видение, как можно?
Can I answer in English?
Okay.
Yeah. Of course, Azerbaijan is also concerned about development and between Ukraine and Russia. Because of the Soviet past, Azerbaijan has its own unique relations with Russia and Ukraine at the same time, and Russia is also our neighboring country. Unfortunately, currently it's seems a little bit unpredictable to see ultimate end of this conflict, and we see a lot of messages from the outside of the world about a continuation of the military component of this conflict and so on. But of course, we support all peace initiatives with regard to finding soonest understanding about potential resolution of the situation. But currently it's really hard to say and what could be and what will be the model or formula for finding a peace in the Ukrainian crisis.
И такой вопрос. Как вы думаете, вот после этой войны или во время этой войны, какая угроза нас угрожает? И Азербайджану, Грузии, во всем Кавказу?
In general, Azerbaijan has for many years suffered from the issue of territorial integrity, and Georgia has also suffered from violation of territorial integrity. If we know our foreign policy, and territorial integrity and sovereignty is a must. And we also call all nations to respect territorial integrity, sovereignty and viability of the internationally recognized borders. In general, what we can say about East-West confrontation, it's not just only Ukrainian crisis, it's a wider East-West confrontation. Unfortunately, it continues and it becomes like a protracted long-term conflict. Under such circumstances, international system becomes unpredictable. Therefore, as a neighboring countries, and we do think and we do believe, and we are doing together with our Georgian colleagues, that we should unite our efforts together to think more about our security and about a joint cooperation and find a common ways out of this current situation, because our destiny is the same, as history has demonstrated.
Как вы думаете, можно ли создать постоянный формат сотрудничества всех стран, которые на Кавказе? Это Азербайджан, Грузия и Армения.
We think that yes, it's possible. And when my President Ilham Aliyev visited Georgia, and when he had a discussion with his counterparts and distinguished and honorable Prime Minister, and they discussed about that, and there was one suggestion in Tbilisi to organize trilateral meeting. And once again, to demonstrate that Caucasus, we are belonging to the Caucasus, and South Caucasus belongs to us. And instead of searching the solution of our problems outside of the region, as a three countries, as a civil countries, and we should come together and to find a common understanding to our common issues. But of course, a lot depends from Armenian side, whether they would like to part of the peace agenda of the Caucasus or not. Unfortunately, throughout the 30 years, Azerbaijan has suffered from Armenia's military occupation. But we ended the war and we have liberated our territories. But finally, it's a turn to Armenian side. And you know what, Azerbaijan also suggested peace treaty, to sign a final peace treaty between Armenia and Azerbaijan to turn the page of atrocity and war between two countries.
И еще один последний вопрос. Как вы думаете, сейчас, когда закрылся российская дорога, Китай, российская дорога через Европу, можно и что надо делать, чтобы больше интенсификацию получил Баку-Тбилиси вот эта дорога?
Exactly. Yeah, now the middle corridor gains additional importance because northern route has been paralyzed due to the obvious reasons. Because Georgia and Azerbaijan, we have done our homework before this conflict. And Georgia, as far as I know, have hugely invested on its transport and logistic capabilities, and Azerbaijan as well for our ports. And we have also jointly together with Turkey, Georgia and Azerbaijan, we have built Baku-Tbilisi-Kars railway system. Currently, Azerbaijan puts additional investment to raise the handling capacity of the Baku-Tbilisi-Kars railway system. We have done certain work together, but we have not designed ourselves for such an amount and a volume of the cargo. Currently, therefore, in coordination and consultation, our countries are increasing their capacity so that to be able to handle such amount of the cargo. In the meantime, along with the hardware, we are synchronizing and will continue to more of our softwares as well. It's a custom synergy, border security and border control synergy, and also not just between Georgia and Azerbaijan, and also with the Central Asian partners and also European partners as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
What do people think? What do politicians think? What do the experts think? Every Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, Real Politics with Malkhaz Gulashvili.
In your opinion, what was the ration for the war in Ukraine? What is Russia's mission in this war?
Well, you know, in diplomacy, in geopolitics, the first lesson you have to learn is to try to understand why it happened. So, to understand, it doesn't mean to justify. But if you don't know, or you don't try to know, and you don't try to understand why we came to this situation that make Russian Federation to invade Ukraine, then you will not be able to solve at the end after what is going to happen, after the parties will decide to engage in a peaceful agreement. If you don't know why it happened, it's going to be very difficult to solve the problem. And I think there was a kind of a misunderstanding of lack of understanding the reason of the other. The West and NATO, United States, European, of course, was defending the right of Ukraine to decide by themselves. But the Russian Federation was, since many years before, saying we don't want to be under the feeling of having an insecurity border with one member state. So why we were not able to solve it peacefully, I think it has been one of the biggest diplomatic failure in the recent history of humankind, because it's a real disaster that in the 21st century, I mean, it seemed that the 21st century should be the century of development, advancement, new discoveries, scientific progress. How we are still trying to solve problems through violence, through the use of force, to invade, to counter-defend. There is no other way. Sapiens, humankind has not been enough developed to find a way to sort it out, the differences and the controversy, through peaceful dialogue and peaceful response. That is the reason for the failure of diplomacy. And if diplomacy fails, wars start.
Yes. And when and how will the war end what will it mean for the Ukraine to win? What will it mean for the Russia win?
I think we have witnessed this afternoon a very interesting panel, no? With a senior diplomat and senior politician that come to the say that we should not have a winner or loser, because at the end we are all losing. When there is war, there is no winner. And there are, of course, the Ukrainian people that are losing life, losing infrastructure, losing their relatives, losing their country, losing the capacity to be living in peace and prosperity. So we are losing at this step. So we have to win in a way that everybody finds themselves, that they come to a certain understanding. Because at the end of the day, Russia Federation is not going to disappear. Like Ukrainian is not going to disappear. And they are neighbors. The geography is not going to change. Well, territorial integrity have to be respected. You have to come to a full respect of international legality. But at the end of the day, the war will end, because we need, the sooner the better, a ceasefire and putting the people into negotiation table.
Thank you. And last question. Excuse me. And what are the threats to Georgia from the northern neighbor? How can the West help us preventing those threats?
I think Georgia deserves much more interest from part of the Europeans and the West in general. We are being neglecting Georgia for many years. It was the crisis with Russia Federation. There was a kind of frozen conflict before, so we were not able. And now even when we apply for the Georgia to become, to engage with the European Union, we put certain conditions, so the time has come to really have a clear strategy in order to reinforce the sovereignty, integrity, the territorial integrity of Georgia. So the Europeans should pay much more attention, seriously, no declaratory, on the ground, giving the Georgian people support, backing, economic, financial, political, diplomatically, and I think the time has come for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What do people think? What do politicians think? What do the experts think? Every Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, Real Politics with Malkhaz Gulashvili.
Opinion, what was the reason for the war in Ukraine? What is Russian mission?
Oh, difficult to say what the
Yes.
Russian really think, but it became pretty obvious that after so long time and efforts in the Donbass that things should change. I think both sides missed to implement the Minsk agreement, but probably nobody expected that the Russians would really invade Ukraine in not only very particular military mission, but it was clearly a war, a declaration of war, and this is unacceptable, absolutely unacceptable. I don't understand what really made President Putin doing that. Probably he miscalculated strongly, and Ukraine, I never thought that they would hold it out the way they did, and the way they defend the country now is absolutely incredible. I think Putin probably saw that how easy it was to annex Crimea, how, let's say, sorry to say, so easy it was in Georgia, and how it happened in Chechnya. So he probably just wanted to add another one and replace the government. in Kiev. But I was surprised to see, and I was often in the Ukraine, how much Ukraine has changed towards getting European.
Okay. And what are the thoughts that to Georgia from the north neighbor? How can we West help us preventing those tears?
I am deeply concerned what is happening now in Georgia. I mean, it's for me incredible to see that the situation is turning in that bad way to become a kind of a cold annexation to Russia. I'm sorry to be so blunt, but this is not right either. And I don't understand why Georgian people could support this kind of approach. Simply don't understand. And then we have a former president in prison, and this is simply unacceptable what happens to him. I mean, respecting former rulers and now letting him darb in a prison, this is not the way good governance should work.
And what are these threats to Georgia from the northern neighbor? How can the West help us preventing those threats?
I think it should be made clear in Georgia what is the people or the majority of the people's opinion, and then that Western countries is given support on different stages and in the international press, and clearly state that that way of rendering a country to somebody who is obviously very hungry is not the right way to do. I very much hope that these people in Georgia, they fight for their liberty, and it's you know, Georgia, in the whole history of the last 2,000 years, it was always between south and north, between east and west, west and east.
Yes.
It's a crossroad country of an amazing endurance and a wonderful beauty.
Thank you.
What do people think? What do politicians think? What do the experts think? Every Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday, Real Politics with Malkhaz Gulashvili.